What is going on, everyone? Hope you're all doing well. Today we are finally going to be taking a look at the long-awaited PC port for Returnal from House Marquee. The PC port for this was handled by Climax Studios out of Portsmouth, UK, who I'm not too familiar with their previous work or previous games that they've handled PC ports for, but so far I'm fairly impressed in terms of the implementation as far as the settings and stuff like that are concerned that they've put in here for PC gamers. But there are some really bad traversal stutters like we've seen recently with the Dead Space remake and Hogwarts Legacy, which is very unfortunate, despite the fact that this game does compile shaders at the beginning, which is awesome. I love to see that, but it has not made this a perfect PC port. As I said, we still got some traversal stutters, so we're going to jump into all the different options that this game has available to us, and then we'll talk about the overall performance for Returnal. But first, today's video is brought to you by SuperCDK.com, where you could save money on games for all of your favorite platforms, as well as software like Windows 10 Pro licenses for just $22, and then you can unlock the prestigious Dark Mode for Windows 10, which I honestly could not live without. It is blinding without the dark mode. You guys need it in your life. And now you can also save an additional 25% off at checkout by clicking Buy Now on any software products over there. Just go ahead and add it into your cart and put in my code JP25 at checkout and apply, and that'll bring our price from $22.44 all the way down to $16.83, a savings of over $5. And I'll walk you through how to get your key and install it on Windows 10. Go ahead and click Submit Order and complete your checkout from there. For me, that's going to be with PayPal, and then click on Pay Now. After completing the checkout, it'll bring you to your purchased order page, and it will update in a matter of seconds, or just go ahead and hit F5. Go ahead and do that one time. It came through literally immediately. I got the payment email that it had gone through and the delivery of the product exactly at the same time. Once you're done with that, go ahead and click on View Keys and Codes, and we'll get our code right here that we can go ahead and copy and paste in on Windows 10 by hitting the Start button and type in the word Activate. When you see that activation settings or see if Windows is activated, go ahead and click on that, and it'll bring up this right here, and click on change your product key or unlock Windows 10. As I already have Windows 10, I obviously don't need to put in a new key, but just paste it in and then go ahead and click next, and you are all done and set. For more information on supercdk.com as well as the coupon code, be sure to check out the links down in the description below. So as I like to do with the start of any of these PC ports is jump into the options menu so I can show you what kind of options are available to you. As a PC gamer, as usually on console, your options are usually pretty limited. You could turn off things like motion blur, film grain, and usually choose between one or two, maybe even three different performance modes. But on the PC, we've got tons of options to be able to customize, which is one of the great things about being a PC gamer. So starting off in the video options, you can see here for all my testing, I was playing at 4K on my RTX 4090, but this is about not just the overall performance of a 4090, but also the game in general, the stuttering, the optimization, all of that stuff. So ignore the fact that it's on a 4090. This kind of stuff will translate to everyone. So in here, you can see we've got a ton of options, and even though I'm not playing on ultra wide, so I don't really have too much of a clue what all of these do except for the descriptions on the side, but ultra wide, you guys got a whole subsection of options here, which I can't recall seeing in too many titles. So this is awesome to see. So you can customize things like your computer cinematics UI or performance UI, where it is on the screen, locations and stuff like that, and sort of remap things. And you could also do that for 16:9 users as well by customizing the HUD, changing various different things, locations, visibility, whether you want things on or off. So really awesome to see that. Jumping into the graphics options, you can see here, I'm on a custom preset, but it's basically epic. We've got VSync off. You could set the max frames per second to completely unlimited, or you can cap it at whatever you happen to want to. We've also got screen optimizations, which are our upscaling options. So in here, we've got resolution scaling, dynamic resolution, DLSS for you NVIDIA users, FSR for AMD users and everyone else, NIS, which is NVIDIA's image sharpening, and we've also got variable rate shading, but no Intel XeSS on that one, on this game. We've also got a field of view bias, so you can adjust that if you want a different FOV, and it does it all live right on this menu as you adjust things, so things are changing in real time, which is always great to see because you can kind of get an idea of how it's impacting the performance and, you know, things along those lines. And we've also got a bunch of different options down here for lighting, environment, and post-processing, all of which I have on up at Epic. So we've got lighting, quality, shadows, ambient occlusion, ray trace shadows, which go from low all the way up to epic, or you can run them off if you want to, in which case you'll be relying on standard screen space reflections. And we've also got ray trace reflections here. Coming down to environment and post-processing, we've got options in here for the model quality, textures, volumetric fog, and particles. And under post-processing, we have got anti-aliasing, which is defined over here as being TAA. So it's nice that they did mention that, even though it's the only form of anti-aliasing in the game besides any upscalers. Depth of field, which I do have off. I've also turned down film grain all the way because I just don't like those kinds of options in these games. We've also got bloom, emissive intensity, brightness, which you can adjust, a SDR black point contrast, and the game does support HDR, but from what I could tell, you do need to have it enabled in Windows if you do want to run that on, which I'm not currently using because it doesn't really work too well for my recordings. Now, before we do go ahead and run the benchmark, the game does include a benchmark, which is very, very nice. We've also got different audio options in here for subtitles. We've got some advanced options in here, which you can adjust for different things like the dialogue. Ray traced audio, I didn't even fucking see that. Why wouldn't I want that on? That sounds fucking sweet. Nice. 5.1 audio is what I'm currently using, but I want to point this out because I love when games include this. So you can change the sort of the mix for your different audio devices. So we got 5.1, 7.1, Dolby Atmos, Oro 3D, Resonance Audio, or Stereo, but as I'm playing on a 5.1 Dolby surround setup, that is what I am going to be using here. For controls, you can also fully remap keybinds, whatever you want to put them to. Honestly, I found the controller to be not great to use. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. It works. It totally works. It's fine. I just find it to be less desirable in this particular game. But I'll talk about that in a minute. Even though it's a shooter, I still felt like it played better on a controller because mobility is more of a factor, in my opinion, than aiming accurately in this particular title. For controller, though, we've got full haptic feedback for the PS5 controller. If you happen to have one of those, for the triggers, the rumble, all of that stuff, you'll be getting the same exact experience as you would if you were playing on a PlayStation 5 if you do own a PS5 controller, and you could use various presets here. I'm on the classic one because I like having the alternate fire on L1 as opposed to the adaptive where you can use L2 with the half press. You know, in the heat of battle, I just find that it's a lot easier to just hit L1 than to worry about half pressing my left, my L2, my left trigger or whatever. So I opted to use classic, but if you're playing on mouse and keyboard, that's not going to be an issue for you. Now, I did this, like I said, this game does include a benchmark, which is very nice. It's actually a very good benchmark. I think it might be one of my favorites going ahead in the future, as it shows lots of different things that, you know, stress the GPU. It's got ray tracing. There's lots of physics and stuff in different areas where things are breaking apart and all of that. And in this particular side-by-side here on the 4090, this is at 4K, but I wanted to compare native resolution at 4K with everything maxed out like you saw in the settings there, as well as DLSS on the quality setting, so we could just sort of see as a comparison, if you did want to use the DLSS, how the image quality is, which is honestly looks very good in this game here. I'm not really seeing any issues with DLSS on this. Unfortunately, we didn't get frame generation, but it really didn't need it. I was doing all of my playing at native 4K with ray tracing and everything, and it ran phenomenally. I was usually up around 80-90 FPS for the vast majority of the time, and sometimes even coming up higher than that, so I didn't really feel the need to use DLSS, although I certainly could and probably get the game to like nearly a lock to 120 or even getting up to 144 FPS at times. But running the benchmark, the native side of it got an average of 88 frames per second, while DLSS on the quality setting got an average of 116 frames per second. But as you guys know, average frame rate really only tells one part of the story. As I said at the start of the video, this game does compile shaders the first time that you boot it up. It actually does it fairly quickly, almost questionably quickly. But I don't think that's really the issue that we're seeing here with this game with the stutters. As I said, it compiles the shaders, but we're seeing a lot of traversal stutters when going from one room to the next, or even when you're in the same sort of small area, you know, fighting against baddies and stuff like that. And it really rears its ugly head quite often here in Returnal. I don't think it makes the game completely unplayable, but it is certainly there, and it's definitely going to probably bother the vast majority of PC gamers that we've waited this long for a PC port, which otherwise seems absolutely fantastic on the surface with the tons of options that we have, the high frame rates that this game is capable of reaching, even with ray tracing and everything maxed out here. But the traversal stutters are still a huge factor, and it's going to negatively impact your user enjoyment of the Returnal experience, which is very unfortunate. And in a game which is as difficult as this, it's manageable. You could definitely get through this game after a few tries, and once you get used to it and everything like that, or if you get a lucky roll on your playthrough. So it can be frustrating, though, because you could imagine if maybe you were in an area where there was tons of enemies around you, and maybe one of these traversal stutters happened to occur, I guess, to not use the same word twice in one sentence. It could be very frustrating, as you could find yourself maybe in the middle of a traversal stutter, and then you get killed because you jumped across the screen and you missed like fucking 10 frames of animation, and now all of a sudden you're fucked. You took a hit. Maybe it messes you up on your playthrough. Maybe it doesn't. It's a worst case scenario, sure. But it's certainly something that you got to be aware of. And the traversal stutters may bother you to the point where you may not want to play the game. But other than the traversal stutters, I do think the game looks fantastic, and the frame rate in general is very, very good. This game is not, as far as I know, I don't believe it's using de novo DRM, which is really, really good. I think this might have even been cracked already, but it is available for $60 over on Steam. Definitely support these devs. I support any of the devs that do these Sony titles and stuff, so that we get more Sony exclusives over on the PC. Don't pirate these games, please. We want to make sure Sony keeps bringing their first party exclusives over to the PC. And if you just run out and pirate it because it's a single player game, then you're a bit of a dick, in my personal opinion. Even though I just checked, the game has been cracked, so that's a thing. But the game runs great, other than the traversal stutters. Now, mouse and keyboard. I've played this game on the PS5 to completion 3 different times, twice on my own, once in co-op. The game does have co-op, which is a little sketchy, and I beat it early on when the co-op was having a lot of bugs on the PlayStation 5. Thankfully, all of those issues and stuff like that, anything that they've patched with the PS5 makes its way into this version, traversal stutters aside, which is a PC specific thing, at least as far as I can tell. But going from playing this game primarily on a controller on the PS5 to playing it on a mouse and keyboard was a little jarring for me, even though I definitely prefer mouse and keyboard, especially for shooters. But in this particular third-person shooter, I feel like your maneuverability and being able to move around quickly and dash and platform just takes the front seat and puts aiming sort of in the back, because the aiming in this game is not that difficult. A lot of the targets you're going to be hitting are very large, and there's also a soft aim assist, which you can use or disable if you want to, or you can make it pretty much a hard lock-on system nearly if you wanted to. But even playing with a controller, like I've never had an issue aiming in Returnal, even though I usually can't aim that well in first-person or third-person shooters using a controller. With this game, it really wasn't an issue. I think they've struck a very great balance in terms of the aim assist on controllers, and I feel like I'm getting a huge benefit in terms of being able to move around the level a lot quicker and more efficiently while dodging, all the different enemies and the different particles and things that are flying at me and trying to kill me in a game where essentially if you die, you're going all the way back to the beginning, baby, and you don't want to have to be shuffling around with the keyboard and all these other things. It's just my personal opinion. Everyone's going to have to find what works out best for them. But after trying to play this game on mouse and keyboard first yesterday, I just was not having a great experience, and I was finding myself looking for keys. I would find myself getting hit all the time, in ways that I feel like if I was on a controller, I probably wouldn't have, because I've gotten more comfortable with it on Returnal. So that's why I've opted to use the PS5 controller. And it also has the benefits of all of the, the rumble and the feedback and all that stuff. So all of that's great too. So both are supported well here, and you're just going to have to find whichever one works out best for you in Returnal. But that's all I've got for you on this game. As I said, it's available now over on Steam for $60. As far as Returnal is concerned, it's a fantastic game. I usually do not play these types of roguelike permadeath sort of games, but I do love the bullet hell style. It reminds me of old Sega Genesis games, flying around and stuff with all the different bullets and things flying at you and all that. It's sort of like that, but you're running around in third person, which is kind of a cool take on the bullet hell genre, in my personal opinion. I don't really feel like I need the roguelike portion of the game, but, it is part of it, and it certainly helps to build the tension quite a bit, and it does keep you locked in. Just unlike the PS5, which at launch, you couldn't save or anything. You really couldn't even turn your system off and come back and play the game. That's not the case here with the PC, as they added in a save system on the PS5. It's still, if you die, you go back to the beginning, but you can at least close the game out completely and save, your playthrough and come back to it right where you left off without losing anything. So that's nice that they have this in here. Good quality of life feature. I don't think it makes the game any easier or anything. It just makes it more manageable, because not many people have 3, 4, 5, 6 hours to really sit down and just bash through this game. And you can bash through this game in just a couple of hours if you're a really experienced, very good player, and you got a good run going and you just know all the areas and you're just a great player. You really can blow through it really quickly. But if you're new to Returnal, I sincerely doubt you're going to beat the game that fast. It's probably going to take you hours and hours to really learn the different enemy types, the different areas, and go through the different sections of the game and finally get through to the end. And then after that, you've got co-op, they've got the Tower of Sisyphus and all of that. So there's tons of content here, and I love Returnal on the PS5, so I have no problem recommending it here on PC, as long as you're okay with those traversal stutters, which hopefully the developers at Housemarque and the port team at Climax Studios can get those resolved in the very near future, so PC gamers can get a better experience here with Returnal. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. If you've been playing Returnal, if you're going to pick it up, let me know how you've been enjoying it down in the comments below, and I'll catch you next time for another video. Peace.